The alarm blared through the quiet night shift of Orbital Station Delta. Jack Wilson jerked awake at his monitoring station, spilling his lukewarm coffee across the control panel. "What the hell?" he muttered, quickly wiping the liquid away from the equipment. The emergency lights pulsed in rhythm with the alarm. Something the station's systems had detected was important enough to trigger the highest alert level. Lisa Goodman, the night shift supervisor, rushed into the communications hub, her face pale in the red emergency lighting. "Wilson, what's happening?" "I don't know yet," Jack replied, his fingers flying across the touchscreen. Something triggered the deep space monitoring array. He paused, staring at the readings in disbelief. "Ma'am, we're picking up a signal. A strong one. And it's not one of ours." Lisa leaned over his shoulder, her breath catching. "Where is it coming from?" "Just beyond Mars orbit. And it's using our own communication protocols. Somehow, they've figured out how to talk to us." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a stream of data that quickly organized itself into recognizable English text. Both operators stared in stunned silence as the message appeared. "To the people of Earth, we need your help. Our ship is damaged, life support failing. We mean no harm. We have watched your species and believe you can save us. In return, we offer eternal loyalty and knowledge beyond your imagination. Please respond. Time is short." Within hours, the modest orbital station transformed into the center of the most significant event in human history. Government officials, military personnel, and scientific experts flooded the facility. The simple message had turned Earth upside down. In a hastily assembled control room, Dr. Alan Beck, the world's leading astrobiologist, addressed the emergency council. "The signal is authentic," he explained to the room of serious faces. "It contains technical details about their ship that prove it's not a hoax. Something, is out there, and they're asking for our help." General Patricia Rivers folded her arms across her chest. It could be a trap. The oldest trick in the book. Pretend you're injured, then ambush the rescuers. "If they wanted to harm us, why announce themselves?" asked Carlos Diaz, the UN Secretary General. "A species capable of interstellar travel could likely destroy us without warning." The debate raged for hours until Betty Chen, a young engineer from the space agency, spoke up. Their message included technical specifications. Their life support is failing because of radiation damage to their biological filtration systems. We have the technology to help them. We just need to reach them. "And how do you propose we do that?" General Rivers asked. "Our fastest ships would take months to reach Mars orbit." Betty smiled. "Not necessarily. The experimental Artemis shuttle was designed for rapid Mars missions. It could reach them in 2 weeks. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "I'll go," came a voice from the back of the room. All heads turned to see Frank Rogers, the most experienced astronaut in the program. "I've logged more hours in the Artemis simulator than anyone else." The Secretary General nodded slowly. "We'll need a small crew, scientific, medical, and security personnel." As the meeting adjourned, Frank stood by the window, gazing up at the stars. Somewhere out there, unknown beings waited, hoping humans would answer their call. The fate of an alien species, and perhaps humanity's future, now rested on his shoulders. The next morning, as dawn broke over the launch facility, Frank and his hastily assembled crew of 5 prepared to make history. Humanity's first rescue mission to an alien spacecraft was about to begin. The Artemis shuttle vibrated violently as it broke through Earth's atmosphere. Frank Rogers gripped his seat, his knuckles white against the restraints. Around him, the small crew maintained professional calm despite the historic nature of their mission. "Booster separation in 3, 2, 1, announced Kate Nelson, the pilot. The craft shuddered as the massive boosters detached, falling back toward Earth. "We're clear. Beginning acceleration to intercept trajectory." Frank unclipped his harness once the worst of the turbulence passed. "Status report. Dr. Mia Rodriguez, The mission's xenobiologist checked her tablet. All biological samples and medical equipment secure. I still wish we had more time to prepare, but we'll work with what we have. Engineering systems green across the board, added Steve Harris, bent over his console. The young engineer had barely slept since being selected for the mission, too busy studying the alien technical specifications. Their filtration system uses principles similar to our water recyclers, just far more advanced. I think I can help repair it. In the back of the cabin, Security Officer Rick Powell checked his weapons one more time. The military had insisted on sending him, despite protests from the scientific team. He caught Frank watching him and shrugged. Just being careful, Captain. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. The final crew member, Communications Specialist Lucy Chen, floated between stations. I've established a permanent link with Mission Control. We're also broadcasting on the frequency the aliens used. No response yet. The next 5 days passed in a blur of equipment checks, simulations, and endless discussions about what they might find. Each night, Frank stared out the viewport at the stars, wondering about the beings waiting for them. On the 6th day, Lucy's console lit up with an incoming message. Captain, they're responding. The crew gathered around her station as a string of text appeared. Humans of Artemis, we detect your approach. Our gratitude is beyond expression. Prepare for visual communication. The main screen flickered, and for the first time, humanity saw the face of an alien being. The creature had a smooth gray-green head with no visible hair. 3 large eyes, deep purple with vertical pupils, blinked independently at the camera. Its mouth was small and seemed to lack lips entirely. Behind it, strange machinery pulsed with dim blue light. I am Guardian Zask of the Kelteri Collective. The alien spoke, its voice surprisingly melodic despite the mechanical translation. Our ship suffered catastrophic damage while observing your 4th planet. 6 of my crew perish. Only 3 remain. This is Captain Frank Rogers of Earth. Frank replied, his mouth dry. We've brought medical and engineering personnel to assist you. The alien's eyes blinked in sequence. Your swift response confirms what we observed about humans. You are compassionate even to strangers, a rare quality in this galaxy. How long have you been observing us? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Many of your years. We study promising species. Humans show exceptional potential. Powell stepped forward. And what exactly do you want from us, beyond repairs? The alien was silent for a moment. To survive now, to share knowledge later. The universe is not always kind to developing worlds. There are dangers you cannot imagine. Frank felt a chill down his spine. What kinds of dangers? We will discuss when you arrive. Our sensors detect other signals approaching. We must prepare for your docking. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Did anyone else notice the damage behind him didn't look like radiation failure? Harris whispered. Those were weapon marks. Frank turned to his crew, their faces reflecting his own mix of excitement and apprehension. Whatever happened to them, we're committed now. Prepare for docking procedures. We reached their position in 48 hours. As the Artemis continued its journey, Earth watched and waited, unaware that first contact was only the beginning of a much larger story. The Artemis shuttle approached the alien vessel with caution. Through the viewport, the crew stared in awe at the massive ship. Unlike the sleek, metallic spacecraft of human science fiction, the Kelteri vessel resembled a massive coral structure, organic curves flowing into sharp angles, all glowing with a faint bluish light. It's beautiful, whispered Dr. Rodriguez, pressing her hand against the glass. Beautiful but damaged, Steve pointed out, gesturing toward the starboard section, where a large portion appeared blackened and torn open. Whatever hit them hard. Kate maneuvered the Artemis toward a circular opening that pulsed with light, apparently the docking bay. Captain, they're sending docking instructions. The computer says they're compatible with our systems. That's convenient, Powell muttered, checking his sidearm discreetly. Frank shot him a warning look. We're here to help, not start an interstellar incident. Weapons stay holstered unless there's a clear threat. The shuttle shuddered slightly as magnetic clamps engaged, securing it to the alien vessel. A soft hissing sound indicated the pressure was equalizing between the two ships. Atmosphere analysis complete, Lucy announced. It's breathable for humans, though higher in oxygen than we're used to. Might make us a little lightheaded. Frank nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. Dr. Rodriguez and Harris with me for the initial contact. Powell, you're our backup, but stay near the shuttle. Lucy, maintain communications with Earth. The airlock cycled open, revealing a corridor that seemed to be made of the same coral-like material as the ship's exterior. The walls pulsed with light that followed their movements, almost as if the ship itself was alive and watching them. 3 figures waited at the end of the corridor. Guardian Zask stood in the center, flanked by 2 other Kelteri, who appeared slightly smaller. Up close, the aliens were taller than humans, with slender limbs and 4-fingered hands. They wore no clothing but had what looked like technological components embedded directly into their skin. Captain Rogers, Zask spoke, placing one hand on his chest in what seemed like a greeting. You honor us with your courage. Frank mimicked the gesture. We came as quickly as we could. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, medical scanner in hand. I'm Dr. Mia Rodriguez, xenobiologist. Are any of you injured? The alien to Zask's left swayed slightly. I am Healer Tolk. We have stabilized our conditions, but our ship's biological systems are failing. Without them, we cannot survive long journeys. Steve Harris held up the toolkit he brought. I've studied your schematics. If you can show me the damaged filtration systems, I might be able to help. The third alien moved forward. I am Engineer Vex. Your assistance would be most welcome. As they walked deeper into the ship, Frank noticed how the corridors seemed to shift and move around them, like walking through a living organism. The damage became more apparent. Torn walls, flickering lights, and strange fluid leaking from ruptures in the structure. What happened to your ship? Frank asked finally. This doesn't look like an accident. The 3 Kelteri exchanged looks, their eyes blinking in that strange sequence. Finally, Zask spoke. We were attacked. There are others who travel between stars, Captain. Not all are peaceful. Who attacked you? And why? They are called the Drakon. They consider this system their territory, though they have never contacted your people. When they discovered us studying Earth, they objected forcefully. Frank stopped walking. Are you saying there's another alien species that claims ownership of our solar system? Zask's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. This is what I wished to discuss. The Drakon avoid developing worlds, but they harvest resources from uninhabited planets. They saw our interest in humans as a violation of their domain. Our ship was damaged escaping their patrol vessel. Dr. Rodriguez looked alarmed. Are they following you? Could they come to Earth? That, said Zask gravely, is why we need your help most urgently. Not just to repair our ship, but to warn your people. The Drakon will come eventually, and humans are not ready to face them alone. Steve worked alongside Engineer Vex in the pulsing heart of the alien vessel. The ship's filtration system was unlike anything he had ever seen, part mechanical, part biological, with components that seemed to breathe and respond to touch. This technology is incredible, Steve said, wiping sweat from his brow. The higher oxygen levels were making him lightheaded as predicted. How does the biological interface communicate with the mechanical systems? Vex's 3 eyes blinked in sequence as he handed Steve a tool that resembled a glowing crystal. Our species evolved alongside our technology. We learned to grow machines rather than build them. Meanwhile, in another section of the ship, Dr. Rodriguez examined the medical bay where several preservation pods held the bodies of the deceased Kelteri crew members. Their cellular structure is fascinating, she told Healer Tolk, who stood watching her work. Almost crystalline in nature, yet clearly organic. We are not so different from humans. Tulk replied softly. We need energy, we reproduce, we die. The universe writes similar patterns across different worlds. Across the ship, Frank and Powell had been granted access to the command center by Guardian Zask. The circular room had no chairs or traditional controls, just floating orbs of light that responded to the alien's touch. Our sensors detected a Drakon scout ship near your planet's moon 3 days ago, Zask explained, manipulating the orbs to show a holographic display of the solar system. They know we survived. They will be searching. Powell, who had remained suspicious since boarding, noticed something odd about the display. Why does your map show detailed scans of Earth's military installations? The room fell silent. Zask's eyes blinked rapidly before he responded. We needed to assess your defensive capabilities, to determine if you could help us. Frank stepped between them, sensing Powell's rising tension. I think it's time for complete honesty, Guardian. What aren't you telling us? Before Zask could answer, Lucy's voice came through their communication devices. Captain, I'm picking up strange readings from the shuttle sensors. There's something approaching fast from the direction of Mars. Frank looked sharply at Zask. Is it the Drakon? The alien's skin paled to a lighter green. Yes, they have found us sooner than expected. He turned to the Orcs, manipulating them frantically. We must hide. This vessel cannot withstand another attack. Hide where? Powell demanded. We're in open space. At that moment, Steve's voice joined the communication channel. Captain, you need to see this. I found something while working on the filtration system. Frank and Powell rushed to the engineering section, where Steve stood before an open panel. Inside was not machinery, but what appeared to be hundreds of crystalline eggs, each pulsing with the same blue light as the ship. They're not just a research vessel, Steve said quietly. This is a refugee ship. They're carrying their young. Dr. Rodriguez arrived moments later, her expression grave. The damage to their ship wasn't just from an attack. Their world is gone. The preserved bodies show radiation consistent with planetary destruction. Frank turned to find Zask in the doorway, the alien's posture now slumped in defeat. We did not lie about needing your help, Zask said, but we could not risk revealing everything until we knew you would not abandon us. The ship suddenly trembled as something powerful scanned them from afar. Drakon warship detected, announced a melodic voice from the ship's systems, weapon systems activating. Frank looked from the vulnerable eggs to his crew, then to the desperate aliens who had gambled everything on human compassion. You're facing extinction, he said to Zask. That's why you promised eternal loyalty. You need more than repairs. You need protection. Zask's 3 eyes fixed on Frank. Yes, and now the ones who destroyed our world have found us again. What will you do, Captain Rogers? The ship shuddered once more as the distant Drakon vessel locked its weapons on them. Frank's mind raced as alarms blared throughout the Kelteri vessel. The approaching Drakon warship had locked weapons on them, and their options were rapidly disappearing. We need to move now, he said firmly. Lucy, contact Earth. Tell them everything. The Drakon, the Kelteri situation, all of it. Communications are being jammed. Lucy replied through the comm. I can't get a signal through. Powell drew his weapon. I knew this would happen. We're trapped between 2 alien forces with no way to call for backup. Put that away, Frank ordered. We're not giving up. He turned to Zask. Does this ship have any defensive capabilities left? The alien Guardian manipulated the light orbs. Our shields are at minimum capacity. Weapon systems were damaged in the previous attack. Steve stepped forward. What about the shuttle? Could we use it as a decoy? Kate's voice came through the comm. The Artemis wasn't built for combat, but it's fast and maneuverable. I could try to draw their attention away. Too dangerous, Frank replied. They'd destroy you in seconds. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been studying the ship's biological interfaces, suddenly looked up. What about the ship's natural camouflage? I noticed the outer hull can change properties. Could you make us look like space debris? Zask and Vex exchanged glances, their eyes blinking rapidly. Possible, Vex said. But it would require redirecting power from life support. We would have minutes, not hours. Do it, Frank commanded. Kate, prepare the shuttle for immediate launch, but stay docked for now. As the aliens worked frantically at their control orbs, the ship's lights dimmed. The living walls around them seemed to contract, as if the vessel itself was holding its breath. Drakon vessel approaching weapons range, announced the ship's melodic voice. Time to intercept. 3 minutes. Frank gathered his crew in the central corridor. Here's the plan. The Kelteri will disguise their ship. Meanwhile, Kate will launch the Artemis on an escape trajectory toward Earth, broadcasting all our findings. The Drakon will likely pursue what they see as the bigger threat, humans escaping with knowledge of their existence. You want to use our shuttle as bait? Powell asked incredulously. No, Frank replied. I'll pilot the shuttle. The rest of you stay here and help the Kelteri complete repairs. If the camouflage works and the Drakon follow me, you'll have time to fix the ship and escape. His crew stared at him in stunned silence. That's suicide, Captain, Steve said quietly. Not necessarily. The Artemis is fast. I just need to stay ahead of them long enough for you to get this ship moving again. Dr. Rodriguez shook her head. The odds of survival are better than doing nothing. Frank cut her off. This isn't a democracy. It's my decision. Zask approached, his tall form bowing slightly. Your courage honors your species, Captain. But there is another option. He extended his four-fingered hand, revealing a small crystalline device. This contains the collective knowledge of our people, our history, technology, culture. If your people had this, they could prepare for the Drakon. Camouflage active, Vex announced. Outer hull reconfiguring to match radiation signature of asteroid field. The ship shuddered violently as it began to change. 1 minute to weapons range. The ship's voice warned. Frank took the crystal from Zask. Lucy, you're the best pilot next to Kate. You'll take the shuttle and this crystal back to Earth. The rest of us will stay and help. Powell, surprising everyone, stepped forward. No, I'll go with her. If the Drakon pursue, they'll need someone who can fight back. Frank nodded, gripping Powell's shoulder. Get this information home, whatever it takes. As Lucy and Powell raced toward the shuttle, Frank turned to the remaining crew and their alien allies. Now let's see if we can get this ship running before our disguise fails. The Drakon warship loomed closer, its massive form appearing on the view screens like a predator circling wounded prey. The shuttle Artemis detached from the Kelteri vessel with a soft shudder. Lucy piloted with steady hands while Powell monitored the enemy ship's movements. They've spotted us, Powell announced grimly. Drakon vessel changing course to intercept. Lucy pushed the engines to maximum. Sending encrypted data burst to Earth now. Even if we don't make it, the information will. Back on the alien ship, Frank watched the view screen as the shuttle became a distant speck, the massive Drakon warship turning to follow it. It worked, he breathed. Now we have time. Steve and Vex worked frantically in the engine room, repairing connections between the biological and mechanical systems. The ship's walls pulsed more strongly around them as power gradually returned. The biological components are regenerating, Steve reported. It's like the ship is healing itself. Dr. Rodriguez approached Frank with a concerned expression. Captain, I've been analyzing the biological samples from the preservation pods. Something isn't right. What do you mean? The radiation patterns I detected earlier. They're not consistent with planetary destruction. They look more like controlled exposure. She lowered her voice. I think these Kelteri were deliberately altered. Frank frowned. Altered how? Before she could answer, Guardian Zask entered the command center with Healer Tulk. Propulsion systems are restored to 60% capacity, Zask announced. We can travel again, though not at full speed. Good, Frank replied cautiously. Then perhaps you can explain what Dr. Rodriguez discovered about your people being genetically altered." The two aliens went still, their eyes blinking in that peculiar sequence. Finally, Zask spoke. "We hoped to share this truth when we reached Earth. Now I see we must be honest." He manipulated the light orbs, creating a holographic display of a DNA-like structure. "What you see is the original Kelteri genome. And this." The image shifted to show a similar but clearly modified structure. "This is what we are now." "You were experimenting on yourselves?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "Not experimenting. Surviving." Tulk stepped forward. "The Drakon did not simply attack our world. They infected it with a biological weapon centuries ago. A slow-acting virus that rendered us sterile. Our population declined for generations until we discovered the truth. We found a way to modify our biology," Zask continued, "to become immune to their weapon. But the process had consequences. We lost certain abilities, including our natural intuition and creativity." Kate, who had been monitoring communications, joined them. "What does this have to do with humans?" Zask's gaze moved to her. "Human DNA contains natural resistance to the Drakon virus. More importantly, you possess the very qualities we sacrificed for survival. We need your genetic material to restore our species fully." Frank stepped back, hand moving instinctively toward where his weapon would be if he had brought one. "You want to experiment on us?" "No," Tulk said quickly. "We seek willing cooperation, a genetic exchange that would benefit both species. Your DNA would save us from extinction. In return, we offer technology centuries beyond your current capabilities." "And if we refuse?" Frank asked. "Then we accept our fate," Zask replied simply. "We will not take by force what must be given freely. That is why we spoke of loyalty. Not as servants, but as allies bound by mutual survival." The ship suddenly trembled. On the view screen, the Drakon warship had stopped pursuing the shuttle and was turning back toward them. "They've seen through our disguise," Vex called from the engine room. "Shields at 40% and rising, but not fast enough to withstand a direct assault." Steve rushed to Frank's side. "Captain, I've seen their technology up close. Everything they've said about it is true. It could revolutionize human medicine, space travel, everything." Dr. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "A genetic exchange protocol could be established with proper safeguards. It needn't be dangerous." Frank looked from his crew to the aliens who had risked everything on human compassion. "We need to decide quickly," he said. "The Drakon will be in firing range in minutes." Frank looked at the approaching Drakon warship on the view screen, then at the faces of his crew and the Kelteri. The moment of truth had arrived. "We don't have time for a debate," he said firmly. "I'm making this call. We help the Kelteri, not just with repairs, but with their genetic problem too." "Captain, are you sure?" Kate asked. "This goes way beyond our mission parameters." "Our mission was to help them," Frank replied. "And humanity doesn't abandon those in need, even if they're not human." He turned to Zask. "We agree to the genetic exchange, but with conditions we'll work out later. Right now, we need to survive." Relief washed over the alien's features. "Thank you, Captain. Your decision honors your species. What's the plan?" Steve asked. "We can't outrun that warship in our current condition." Vex stepped forward, manipulating the control orbs. "There is one option. The ship's quantum fold drive is partially operational." "Quantum fold?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "A method of travel that bends space rather than moving through it," Zask explained. "It requires enormous power, and in our damaged state, we can make only one jump." "Can it take us to Earth?" Frank asked. "No," Vex replied. "With current power levels, we can reach only to the edge of your solar system. But there is a Kelteri sanctuary outpost hidden there." The ship shook violently as the first Drakon weapons fire struck their shields. "Shields at 30%, announced the ship's voice. "Critical failure imminent." "Do it," Frank ordered. Make the jump. Zask and Vex worked the controls in perfect synchronization. The lights dimmed as power redirected to the full drive. A strange humming filled the ship, rising in pitch until it was almost painful. Jump in 10 seconds, Vex called out. Brace yourselves. The process is disorienting for organic beings. Another blast rocked the ship. Shields failing. The ship reported calmly. 5 seconds, Vex continued. 4, 3, 2. The universe seemed to fold inward. Frank felt his body stretch and compress simultaneously, as if every atom was being pulled apart and pushed together. The sensation lasted for what seemed like hours but was likely only seconds. Then, with a final shudder, the ship stabilized. The view screen showed unfamiliar stars against the blackness of space. Jump successful, Vex announced, his voice weak with exhaustion. We have reached the outer boundary of your solar system. The Drakon, Frank asked. Cannot follow immediately, Zask replied. Their ships require time to recharge between jumps. We have perhaps 1 Earth day before they can pursue. Kate checked the navigational display. Where exactly are we? Near your dwarf planet Pluto, Tulk answered. Our outpost orbits beyond it, hidden within an ice cloud. As the Kelteri vessel approached the hidden outpost, Frank gathered his remaining crew. Lucy and Powell should have reached Earth by now with the data crystal, he said. Earth will know about the Drakon threat and the Kelteri situation. What happens now? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Now we fulfill our promise, Frank replied. We help the Kelteri with their genetic problem, and they share their technology with us. Together, we prepare for when the Drakon eventually find Earth. Hours later, as the crew settled into the outpost, Zask approached Frank in a quiet observation chamber. Through the viewport, distant Earth was barely visible as a tiny blue dot. Your people will come looking for you, Zask said. Frank nodded. And they'll find not just us, but new allies. The genetic exchange process will take time, Zask continued. But our scientists believe it will succeed. The first Kelteri born with human genetic material will carry a piece of your world with them forever. And in return, humanity gets a head start against the Drakon. Frank added. More than that, Zask said, placing a 4-fingered hand on Frank's shoulder. You will have our eternal loyalty, as promised. What your small crew did today will be remembered in Kelteri history forever. 2 species, facing extinction separately, found survival together. Frank gazed at the distant speck that was Earth, thinking of how much had changed in just a few days. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had found both new enemies and new friends among the stars. Not just survival, Frank corrected, a future for both our peoples. As if in response, the lights in the outpost pulsed brightly, the living technology of the Kelteri responding to the first spark of hope in a very long time.